My name is Daniel, and this is the story of how I found love in the most unexpected place, with the most unexpected person. I was 24 years old when I signed up for that camping trip. It was organized by my college alumni group, a weekend retreat in the mountains of Colorado. I'd been out as gay since I was 19, and honestly, I wasn't looking for romance. I'd had my share of heartbreaks and was content just being myself, focusing on my graphic design career. And enjoying time with friends, that's when I met Alex. He arrived at the campsite in a beaten-up Jeep. All 6 feet of him unfolding from the driver's seat like some kind of outdoor magazine cover model. Sandy brown hair that caught the sunlight, green eyes that seemed to reflect the forest around us, and this easy smile that made everyone feel welcome. He had that effortless confidence that some people are just born with. "Hey, I'm Alex," he said, extending his hand to our group. His grip was firm, warm, looking forward to disconnecting from the world for a few days. I shook his hand, felt that brief contact, and thought nothing of it. He seemed like a typical straight guy, the kind who probably had a girlfriend back home and spent his weekends watching football. I'd gotten good at reading people, knowing who was safe to have a crush on and who wasn't. The first day passed in a blur of setting up tents, hiking to a nearby waterfall, and gathering around the campfire as the sun set. Our group was about 15 people, a mix of old college friends and some new faces. Alex fit in immediately, cracking jokes, helping people with their gear, offering to carry the heavier supplies. I found myself watching him sometimes, the way you might admire a beautiful painting in a museum. Appreciation from a distance, nothing more. That evening, as we sat around the fire roasting marshmallows, someone suggested we go around and share what we were grateful for. It was cheesy, but the mountain air and the starlight made it feel right. When it was Alex's turn, he stared into the flames for a moment before speaking. "I'm grateful for new beginnings," he said quietly, "for the chance to figure out who I really am, away from everyone's expectations." There was something in his voice, a vulnerability that caught me off guard. Our eyes met across the fire just for a second, and I felt something shift in the air between us. Then he looked away, and the moment passed. The next morning, I woke early to catch the sunrise. The mountains were painted in shades of pink and gold, the air crisp and clean. I'd brought my sketchbook, hoping to capture some of the landscape. I found a spot on a large boulder overlooking the valley, and started drawing. I was so absorbed in my work that I didn't hear anyone approach until a voice spoke right beside me. "That's incredible."
Ow.
I jumped, nearly dropping my pencil. Alex stood there, 2 steaming cups of coffee in his hands, looking sheepish. "Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you," he said, offering me one of the cups. "I saw you leave and thought you might want some caffeine. Early riser too, huh?" "Thanks," I said, taking the cup. Our fingers brushed, and I felt that same strange electricity from the night before. "Yeah, I wanted to catch the light. It's beautiful up here. Can I?" he asked, gesturing to the space beside me on the boulder. "Of course." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sun climb higher. Alex didn't try to fill the quiet with meaningless chatter, and I appreciated that. There was something peaceful about sharing space with someone who understood the value of silence. "Can I ask you something?" he finally said. "Sure, how did you know?" He wasn't looking at me, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "When you came out, I mean? How did you know for sure?" My heart started beating faster. This was unexpected territory. That's a big question for sunrise coffee," I said carefully. "I know, sorry. You don't have to answer." "No, it's okay." I set down my sketchbook, gathering my thoughts. I guess I always knew in a way. Even as a kid, I just felt different. But knowing and accepting are 2 different things. It took me years to stop fighting it, to stop trying to be what everyone expected me to be. Alex nodded slowly, still not meeting my eyes. "What made you stop fighting?" I realized I was exhausting myself trying to be someone I wasn't, and that the people who truly loved me would accept me, and the ones who didn't, well, their opinions didn't matter as much as my own happiness. He was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I told my ex-girlfriend I was straight. I told my parents, my friends, everyone. I believed it too, or I thought I did. But lately, he trailed off, shaking his head. My chest tightened. I wanted to reach out to comfort him, but I held back. Lately, I prompted gently. Lately, I can't stop thinking that maybe I was wrong, that maybe I've been lying to myself my whole life. The vulnerability in his confession made my heart ache. I'd been there, in that terrifying space between denial and acceptance. That must be really scary, I said softly. Terrifying, he admitted. He finally turned to look at me, and I could see the fear and confusion in his eyes. I don't even know why I'm telling you this. We just met. Sometimes strangers are easier to talk to, I said. No history, no expectations. He smiled faintly. Maybe that's it. He paused. Can I ask you another question? Anything. Does it get easier? The fear, I mean? Yes, I said honestly. It gets so much easier. Once you stop running from yourself, once you accept who you are, it's like you can finally breathe properly for the first time. The fear doesn't disappear completely, but it stops controlling your life. Alex looked back at the sunrise, and I saw his jaw clench, like he was fighting back tears. We sat there together as the morning light grew stronger, two people on the edge of something neither of us fully understood yet. After breakfast, groups split up for various activities. Some people wanted to hike to a nearby peak. Others planned to kayak on the lake. Alex appeared beside me as I was deciding what to do. Want to explore the forest trail? He asked. I heard there's an old abandoned fire tower about 3 miles in. Sure, I said. Trying to keep my voice casual, even though my heart was racing, we set off together. Our boots crunching on the pine needles carpeting the trail. The morning was cool, the forest alive with bird song and the whisper of wind through the trees. At first we talked about surface things, our jobs, our college experiences, favorite movies and music, but gradually the conversation deepened. Alex told me about his childhood in a small town in Ohio, about his father's expectations that he'd take over the family construction business, about the girlfriend he'd dated for 3 years who he'd broken up with 6 months ago. She knew, he said, as we climbed a particularly steep section of trail. She never said it directly, but I think she knew I was holding back, that there was some part of me I couldn't give her, no matter how hard I tried. Did you love her? I asked. I cared about her deeply. But was it love? Real, complete love? He shook his head. I don't think I knew what that felt like. I was so busy trying to play the part of the perfect boyfriend that I never stopped to ask myself if I was happy. I understood that more than I could say. What made you finally end it? One night, we were watching a movie, and there was this scene with 2 men kissing. Just a brief moment, nothing explicit. And I couldn't look away. I felt something, this pull, this recognition. And when I looked at her, she was watching me instead of the screen. She had this sad, knowing look on her face. He stopped walking, leaning against a tree. 2 weeks later, I ended it. I didn't tell her why. Not really. I just said I needed to figure myself out. That was brave, I said. Or cowardly. I still haven't figured out which. It's brave, I insisted. Admitting you don't have all the answers, choosing to be honest rather than continue living a lie that takes courage. We reached the fire tower around noon. It was a wooden structure, weathered by time and elements. Its stairs slightly precarious, but still climbable. We ascended carefully, and at the top, we were rewarded with a 360-degree view of the forest stretching out in every direction. This is incredible, Alex breathed. His eyes wide. We sat on the floor of the tower's observation deck, sharing the sandwiches we'd packed. Below us, the world seemed vast and full of possibility. Can I tell you something? Alex said, his voice uncertain. Of course. Last night, after everyone went to sleep, I lay in my tent and couldn't stop thinking about our conversation. About everything you said? Paused, picking at the label on his water bottle. And I realized that for the first time in my life, I felt like someone actually understood what I was going through. That I wasn't alone in this confusion. You're not alone, I said firmly. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're questioning, you're not alone. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and the intensity in his gaze made my breath catch. Daniel, I think You don't have to label it, I interrupted gently. Not right now, not ever unless you want to. You're allowed to just feel what you feel without putting words to it. Relief flooded his face. Thank you. We spent another hour at the tower talking about everything and nothing. About dreams and fears, about the pressure to conform, and the freedom that comes from letting go of others' expectations. Alex told me about his love of woodworking, how he'd secretly dreamed of being a furniture maker instead of working construction. I told him about my art, about the illustrations I created for children's books under a pen name. By the time we hiked back to camp, something had shifted between us. It wasn't just friendship anymore, but it wasn't quite romance either. It was something in between, something fragile and new and terrifying. That evening, the group decided to have a potluck dinner. Everyone contributed something, and we ended up with a feast spread across the picnic tables. There was laughter, music from someone's portable speaker, and the warm glow of citronella candles keeping the bugs at bay. I found myself hyper-aware of Alex's presence. Every time he laughed, every time he moved, I knew exactly where he was in relation to me. It was like my body had developed a compass that only pointed in his direction. After dinner, someone suggested a night hike to a clearing where we could stargaze. Most of the group was enthusiastic, but a few people were tired and decided to stay behind. Alex and I exchanged a glance. "You want to go?" he asked. The way he phrased it, the intimacy in his tone, made it clear he was asking about more than just the hike. He was asking if I wanted to spend more time with him, if this connection between us was something I felt too. "Yeah," I said. "I want to go." The hike was beautiful. Our guide, someone who'd grown up in these mountains, pointed out constellations and told stories about the wildlife. The clearing was perfect, a meadow of tall grass surrounded by pine trees. The sky above us absolutely packed with stars. We all spread out blankets and lay down, looking up at the universe. Alex positioned his blanket next to mine, close enough that our hands were almost touching in the space between us. "I've never seen so many stars," he whispered. "Light pollution hides them in the city," I whispered back. "But they're always there, even when we can't see them. It's kind of like truth," he said softly. "Just because we hide it doesn't mean it stops existing." My heart ached at the wisdom in his words, at the journey he was clearly taking within himself, around us. People were quiet, absorbed in the magnificence above. In the darkness, I felt rather than saw Alex's hand move toward mine. His pinky finger hooked around mine, the smallest possible contact, barely even touching. But it sent electricity through my entire body. Neither of us moved, neither of us breathed, for what felt like an eternity. Then, slowly, carefully, his hand slid fully over mine. Our fingers intertwining. We lay there like that for over an hour, holding hands under the stars, surrounded by people, but completely in our own world. It was innocent and charged all at once, a moment of connection that felt more intimate than anything I'd experienced before. When the group finally started to head back to camp, we reluctantly let go of each other's hands. But something had been said without words. Something had been acknowledged without speaking. Back at camp, everyone began saying their goodnights and heading to their tents. The fire was banked but still glowing, casting dancing shadows across the clearing. I was getting ready to retreat to my own tent when Alex approached me. "Daniel," he said, his voice low, "can we talk? Just for a few more minutes?" "Of course." We walked a little ways from the tents, finding a fallen log to sit on. The night was cool, and I could see Alex shivering slightly in his thin jacket. "Here," I said, shrugging off my heavier fleece and offering it to him. "No, you'll be cold. I'll run warm." "Take it." He accepted the fleece, pulling it on. It was too small for his broader frame, but he managed. "Smells like you," he said, then immediately looked embarrassed. "Sorry, that was weird." "It's not weird," I assured him. We sat in silence for a moment, the sounds of the forest around us. An owl hooted somewhere in the distance. "I can't stop thinking about you," Alex finally said, the words tumbling out in a rush. "Since this morning, since our conversation, since the moment I met you, honestly, and I don't know what that means, and I'm terrified, but I also feel more alive than I have in years." My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. "Alex, I know I said I was straight. I believed I was. But Daniel, when I'm with you, when I talk to you, when we held hands under the stars, he turned to face me fully. I've never felt this way before. Not with anyone. And it's terrifying and exhilarating, and I don't know what to do with these feelings. You don't have to do anything with them, I said, even though every fiber of my being wanted to close the distance between us. You don't have to figure it all out tonight, or this weekend, or ever. You're allowed to just feel without needing to define it. But what if I want to define it? He asked. What if I want to stop being afraid and just be honest about what I'm feeling? Then be honest, I whispered. He took a shaky breath. I think I'm falling for you, Daniel. I think maybe I'm not as straight as I thought I was. I think maybe I've never been straight, and I've just been too scared to admit it. Tears pricked at my eyes. I knew what it cost him to say those words, to be that vulnerable. Alex, I'm falling for you too. But I need you to be sure. I need you to know that this isn't just the magic of the mountains or the romance of the moment. Because I've had my heart broken by people who were experimenting, who woke up the next morning and decided they'd made a mistake. I'm not experimenting, he said firmly. I'm discovering. There's a difference. He reached for my hand, holding it tightly. I know this is fast. I know this is scary. But Daniel, I've never been more certain of anything. These feelings, this connection. It's the most real thing I've ever felt. And what happens after this weekend? I asked, forcing myself to be practical, even though my heart was soaring. We go back to our normal lives, you in Denver, me in Boulder, and then what? Then we figure it out, he said. Together. Denver and Boulder are less than an hour apart. We take it slow. We take it at whatever pace feels right. But we don't walk away from this just because it's complicated or scary. I looked at him, at this man who had appeared in my life less than 48 hours ago, but who already felt essential. Okay, I said. Okay, let's figure it out together. The smile that broke across his face was radiant. Yeah. He leaned closer and I could see the question in his eyes. I nodded, just barely, and then his lips were on mine. It was soft, tentative, a question and an answer all at once. His hand came up to cup my face, and I felt him trembling. When we pulled apart, there were tears on his cheeks. Hey, I said gently, wiping them away with my thumb. You okay? I'm perfect, he said, laughing and crying at the same time. I'm absolutely perfect. I've never felt so right before. Like everything in my life was leading to this moment. We kissed again, longer this time, more certain. When we finally broke apart, we were both smiling like idiots. Come on, Alex said, standing and pulling me up with him. It's cold out here. We walked back to the tents hand in hand. At the edge of the clearing we paused. Your tent or mine? He asked with a shy smile. Yours is bigger, I pointed out. He laughed softly. Fair point. Alex's tent was indeed larger, a two-person set up with enough room to sit up comfortably. He unzipped the entrance, and we crawled inside, zipping it shut behind us. He clicked on a small battery-powered lantern. Bathing everything in soft light, we sat facing each other, cross-legged on his sleeping bag, just looking at each other. I can't believe this is real, Alex said. This morning, I woke up terrified and confused. Now I'm sitting here with you, and everything feels clear for the first time in my life. What feels clear? I asked. That I'm allowed to want what I want. That I'm allowed to feel what I feel. That being with you, right here, right now, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. I reached out and took his hand. I'm scared too, you know. Of getting hurt, of this not working out, of all the complications that come with starting something new, but... He prompted. But I think you're worth the risk. I think what we have, even if it's only been 2 days, is worth exploring. He brought my hand to his lips, kissing my knuckles gently. Thank you for being patient with me. For not pushing. For letting me come to this in my own time. Everyone's journey is different, I said. There's no right way or timeline for figuring out who you are. We lay down side by side, facing each other in the small space. Alex pulled a blanket over us both, and we lay there in the gentle glow of the lantern. Just talking, he told me about his childhood. About growing up in a conservative household where feelings weren't discussed, and vulnerability was seen as weakness, about how he'd learned to bury his emotions, to present the version of himself that others expected to see. I told him about my own journey, about the fear and liberation of coming out, about the family members who accepted me immediately and the ones who took years to come around. "Do you think your parents will accept you?" I asked carefully. He was quiet for a long time. "I don't know. My dad is traditional. He has very specific ideas about what makes a man. But my mom, she's always been more open-minded. I think she'll understand, eventually. And if they don't, then I'll be sad, but I'll be okay. Because I'm learning that I can't live my life for other people's approval. I have to live it for myself." The wisdom in his words made me smile. "Look at you, having profound revelations in the middle of the Colorado wilderness." He laughed. "Must be the mountain air." We talked until the lantern battery began to dim. Alex reached over and switched it off, plunging us into darkness. Outside, I could hear the gentle sounds of the forest at night. "Daniel." Alex's voice came through the dark. "Yeah, can I hold you?" My answer was to shift closer, and he wrapped his arms around me, pulling me against his chest. I could hear his heartbeat strong and steady, and I pressed my palm against his chest, feeling it beneath my hand. "Is this okay?" he whispered. "This is perfect," I whispered back. We lay like that for a long time, neither of us sleeping, both of us savoring the closeness. At some point, Alex began running his fingers through my hair, a gentle, soothing motion that made me feel safe and cherished. "I never knew it could feel like this," he said softly. "Being close to someone, with my ex it always felt like I was performing, playing a role. But with you, I can just be." "That's how it should always feel," I told him. "Easy and right and like you don't have to try." "I wasted so much time," he said, and I could hear the regret in his voice. "No," I said firmly. "You didn't waste anything. Every experience, every relationship, every moment of confusion led you here. To this tent, to this night, to figuring out who you really are. That's not wasted time, that's growth." He held me tighter. "How did I get so lucky to meet you?" I think we both got lucky. As the night deepened, we finally began to drift towards sleep, still wrapped in each other's arms. Just before I fell asleep, I felt Alex press a kiss to the top of my head. "When sweet dreams." "Daniel," he whispered. "Sweet dreams, Alex," I whispered back. I woke to soft morning light filtering through the tent walls and the realization that I was still wrapped in Alex's arms. He was awake, watching me with a gentle smile. "Morning," he said softly. "Morning," I replied. "How long have you been awake?" "A while." I didn't want to move and wake you up. He brushed a strand of hair from my forehead. Also, I was afraid if I fell back asleep, I'd wake up and this would all have been a dream. I reached up and touched his face, feeling the stubble on his jaw. Not a dream, very real. "Good," he said, and leaned down to kiss me. It was sweet and unhurried. A morning greeting that felt both new and familiar at the same time. When we pulled apart, we could hear movement in the camp. Other people starting their day. "We should probably get up," I said reluctantly. "Probably," Alex agreed. But he didn't let go of me. "Alex," I said seriously, "we're going to have to go out there and face everyone. Are you ready for that? For people to maybe figure out what's happening between us?" He was quiet for a moment, considering. Then he nodded. "Yeah, I am. I spent my whole life hiding, pretending, being afraid. I don't want to do that anymore. I'm not going to make a big announcement or anything, but I'm not going to hide either." Pride swelled in my chest. "You're amazing, you know that?" He grinned. "You might be a little biased." We eventually extracted ourselves from the sleeping bags and each other. Alex loaned me a clean shirt since I'd slept in yesterday's clothes. And we emerged from the tent together into a bright, beautiful morning. A few people were already up, making coffee and breakfast. Sarah, one of the trip organizers, looked up and smiled when she saw us. "Morning, you two." "Sleep well." There was nothing accusatory in her tone, just friendly inquiry. But I saw Alex tense slightly beside me. "Great, thanks," he said. And I was proud of how steady his voice was. We helped prepare breakfast. making pancakes over the camp stove and frying bacon in a cast-iron skillet. As people emerged from their tents, the camp filled with cheerful conversation and the smell of coffee and food, I caught Alex watching me several times, soft smile on his face. Once, when I was pouring orange juice, he reached out and touched my lower back just for a second, a small gesture that meant everything after breakfast. We had a group meeting to decide what to do for our last day. Some people wanted to pack up and head out early. Others wanted to maximize our time in nature. Eventually, we compromised on leaving after lunch. "I'm going to take one last hike," Alex announced. "Anyone want to join?" Several people volunteered. I held back, unsure if he wanted space or company. He looked directly at me. "Daniel, you coming?" The way he said it, the hope and invitation in his voice, made my decision easy. "Yeah, I'm coming." Our group of 6 set out on a different trail, one that supposedly led to a waterfall. The hike was gorgeous, winding through dense forest and alongside a bubbling creek. Alex and I naturally fell into step together, occasionally joined by others, but often finding ourselves slightly separated from the group. "What are you thinking?" I asked him at one point about how different everything looks now. He said, "Yesterday, I was looking at these mountains and seeing beauty, but feeling disconnected from it. It's like I was watching life through a window. Today, I feel like I'm actually part of it. Like I finally woke up. That's what authenticity does," I said. "When you stop fighting yourself, everything becomes clearer, more vivid." We reached the waterfall around mid-morning. It was spectacular, a 50-foot cascade of water plunging into a crystal-clear pool. The spray created rainbows in the sunlight, and the sound was thunderous and peaceful all at once. Our group spread out, some people dipping their feet in the pool, others taking photos. Alex and I found a flat rock slightly away from everyone else and sat down. "Can I ask you something?" Alex said. "Always. What happens when we go back?" "Really?" I mean, I'm excited and terrified at the same time. I'm starting to come out to myself, but eventually I'll have to come out to everyone else. My family, my friends, my coworkers. That's huge. I nodded, understanding his fear. It is huge, and it won't always be easy. Some people will surprise you with their acceptance. Others will disappoint you. But Alex, you don't have to do it all at once. You can take your time. Come out to people as you feel ready. You be there when I do it. His eyes were vulnerable, scared. "If you want me there, yes." Every step of the way, I took my hand, not caring that our group might see. "I want you there. I want you in my life, Daniel. Not just for this weekend, but for real." "Then I'm there," I promised. For real. We sat by the waterfall for another half hour, watching the play of light on water, holding hands, and making quiet plans for what came next. We talked about dates we wanted to go on, places we wanted to explore together, how we'd navigate the coming weeks and months. "I want to take you to my favorite restaurant in Denver," Alex said. "It's this tiny Italian place that makes the best lasagna. And there's an art gallery downtown I think you'd love. And in the summer, there's this concert series in the park." He kept talking, planning our future, and I listened with a smile on my face, amazed at how far he'd come in just 2 days. Back at camp, we packed up our gear and cleaned the site, leaving no trace of our weekend in the wilderness. There was a melancholy feeling in the air, the sadness that comes at the end of any good trip. As people loaded their cars and said their goodbyes, Alex and I stood together, our bags at our feet. "So," he said, Next weekend, I confirmed. We'd already made plans for him to come to Boulder, for me to show him my city, and we'll talk during the week. "Every day if you want," he smiled. "I want—" Sarah approached us, giving us both hugs. "It was great having you guys on the trip. You should definitely come to the next one in the fall." "You will," Alex said. And I noticed he said, "we," not "I might." After Sarah walked away, I turned to Alex. "You doing okay?" "Yeah," he said, and he sounded surprised. "Yeah, I really am. I thought I'd be panicking right now, second-guessing everything. But I just feel peaceful, happy, like I made the right choice." "You did," I assured him. You chose yourself, your truth, your happiness. That's always the right choice. We were the last to leave. Our cars were parked next to each other and we stood between them, neither of us quite ready to say goodbye. Thank you, Alex said suddenly, for everything. For listening, for understanding, for not pushing, but also for not letting me run away from myself. You don't have to thank me for that. You did all the hard work. We did it together, he corrected. Then he glanced around, saw we were alone, and pulled me into a kiss. It was different from the tentative kisses of the night before. This one was sure, confident, a promise of things to come. When we broke apart, we were both grinning. Drive safe, I said. You too. Text me when you get home. The second I walk in the door, got in our respective cars, but before I started my engine, I looked over and saw Alex watching me through his window. He raised his hand in a wave and I waved back as I drove down the mountain road. I kept checking my rearview mirror, seeing his Jeep behind me, and I smiled. This was the beginning of something beautiful, something real, something worth every risk and challenge that lay ahead. It's January now, and I'm sitting in Alex's apartment in Denver, watching him build a bookshelf in his living room. He finally quit the construction company and is pursuing his dream of custom furniture making. His first few pieces have sold, and he's building a client base. Coming out to his parents was hard. His dad struggled at first, said some hurtful things, but his mom was an ally from the beginning, and slowly his dad is coming around. Last month, they had dinner together, and his dad asked about me. It was awkward and stilted, but it was progress. My family loves him. My mom says she's never seen me so happy, and she's right. I am happy, deliriously so. Alex looks up from his work and catches me watching him. What? He asks, smiling. Just thinking about that camping trip, about how much has changed in 6 months. He sets down his drill and comes to sit beside me on the couch. Best camping trip of my life, he says, kissing my temple. Mine too. You know what I was thinking? He says, we should go back. This summer, same campsite, same mountains? Yeah. Full circle. Show the universe how far we've come. I lean my head on his shoulder. I'd like that. It's outside, snow is starting to fall, dusting Denver in white. Inside, we're warm and safe, and together. Alex takes my hand, intertwining our fingers the way he did that first night under the stars. I love you, he says. It's not the first time he said it. We crossed that milestone weeks ago, but it still makes my heart skip. I love you too, I reply, and it's true. What started as a chance meeting in the mountains has become the great love story of my life. Alex found himself that weekend, found the courage to be who he really was, and in doing so, found us. He said he was straight until that night in the tents. But the truth is, he was always exactly who he is now. He just needed the time, the space, maybe the right person to help him see it. I'm grateful every day that I got to be that person, that I got to witness his journey, support his growth, and fall in love with him along the way. The mountains taught us both something important, that the most beautiful views come after the hardest climbs. That truth is always worth the struggle to reach it, and that sometimes the people who change our lives appear when we least expect them. That weekend, under the stars and in a tent in the Colorado wilderness, 2 people found each other and found themselves. And that's the beginning of the best kind of love story, the true kind, the kind that lasts.